Let's talk about some of these other players on offense.
Yeah.
Who else are you looking to see out on Thursday? Who are you excited to watch? Is there anybody that caught your eye last week that you want to see if they can stack it together? Anything like that?
Well, Stidham, I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on Stidham on Thursday. I don't know if he'll be there because he hasn't been. I'm really excited to see Rhamondre Stevenson whenever we finally get a shot to see him. It's funny. He's been in pictures at some of these OTA practices, but he hasn't been at the media ones. So, and I think Ivan Fear said last week he was dealing with some minor injury or something, but that's the guy I'm really juiced up to see, especially after last week and seeing Nelson Aguilar, seeing Kendrick Bourne, Hunter Henry, some of these new guys. Those were at the top of my list. But now that we're past that, the more I look into Rhamondre Stevenson and the more I watch him, and then when we heard Ivan Fears talk about him, Josh McDaniels talk about him, I'm really, really, really excited about the potential that this kid has. I think they might have truly found something. I said this when they picked him. The Patriots haven't had a true 3-down back in a while, right? Maybe since Corey Dillon, like a true 3-down back. I think Stevenson might have that potential. And that's really exciting to me. And a guy who's 6'1", 250, can move like he can catch the ball like he can block like he can. They can get really creative with that kind of player. So I don't think we're going to see him till minicamp just because, that's not inside information. If we haven't seen him yet, I don't think we will. But that's a guy I can't wait to watch personally.
Yeah, I'm actually going to stick with the running backs and go with J.J. Taylor because he has looked good in practice. No doubt about that. But the problem that I have with J.J. Taylor and hyping him up in these practices is there's no contact. Right, you can't hit anybody, right. And when you have a running back that's a 5'5", 5'6", whatever, I think they list him at like 5'8", but I don't think he's actually 5'8". When he's that much of a jitterbug, right, and he's that quick and he's that fast and he's that explosive, these are where you shine, right? There's helmets and shorts and jerseys on. There's no pads. There's no contact. There's no jamming a running back out of the backfield. There's no running over a running back and blitz pickup. There's nothing like that at all. So, yeah, he's going to look great in June. He's a June player, J.J. Taylor, right? He's a preseason player. Quite, as well. He's a guy that you put him out there against the 3s and the 4s of an opponent in the third quarter of a preseason game, and he's going to absolutely ball out against those guys because he's too talented to go up against those players. So what I want to see out of J.J. Taylor is he going to continue to just be so impressive in shorts that we have to give him credit for it heading into camp? And what kind of role can he carve out for himself in this offense? Because those Rex, as much as we think that Rhamondre Stevenson is going to step into that Rex Burkhead role, those Rex Burkhead snaps are available. James White is getting longer in the tooth every single year, and they only signed him to a 1-year deal. So that door is ajar now for J.J. Taylor.
And like we just talked about with the quarterbacks, right? Experience is key. Taylor doesn't have a ton, right? Played 3 games last year, 4 games last year, but he's got more experience than Stevenson. He's got a whole year, a whole camp, right? A whole, practices, all of that. So yeah, I still think Taylor's the 4th back over Stevenson just because of the way they treat running backs historically. But yeah, that role's there if he can take it.
The juice is noticeable with him, and it was noticeable when he got into games last year as well, right? So this isn't something that we're just talking about at practice. When he played last year and got those opportunities early on in the season, the Raiders game I think stands out the most. He has some explosiveness. He's got some juice. He's got some ability to do some different things. He can return kicks even or punts potentially as well. So that's another role. The player that he often gets compared to, because Ivan Fears went this direction, was Dion Lewis. I wonder if he can sort of be the Patriots' Darren Sproles a little bit, as someone that can do it on special teams. Dion did return kickoffs, I guess, so that, he did have that role down pat as well.
But it comes down to Darren Sproles, for his size, was a great pass blocker. That's what J.J. Taylor, and we haven't seen him do a ton of it. I'm not saying he can't, but it's very difficult, right? J.J. Taylor's 5'7", and he's got to block, Von Miller coming flying off the edge or whoever. Right. That's what it's going to come down to for him. I think if he can prove to be a capable pass blocker, there's going to be a significant role for him because he seems like he can handle the rest of the responsibilities. But that's a big if. That's a lot he's got to work on and get good at. And I'm not saying he can't, but we won't know until probably the preseason. Even in training camp, sometimes it's hard to see some of that stuff with the blocking, right? We may not know until we see him in a preseason game where he's at in pass pro.
Yeah, and that's the main thing to me is, look, it's great that he looks great out there right now. And it's great that he's going to be this player that when there's no contact and you're just running around out there in shorts, he's definitely noticeable. And it's palpable that he's playing very well out there and he's making progress and all these types of things. But to me, if I see it on Thursday, if I see it in minicamp, it will definitely be at the top of my list to look at once we actually put the pads on and real football begins. Can he continue it then? Then maybe I'll get excited about JJ Taylor. Right now, I kind of feel like this is a conversation in June that we're having because JJ Taylor is quick and he's fast and he's elusive and he's explosive and nobody can touch him. So that's sort of where I'm at right now with it.
So somebody brought up in the chat, and this is a good point. You know, if he puts the weight on, he can block, and that's not incorrect, but you have to be able to put the weight on and keep your speed and keep your elusiveness and keep your balance. And that's not always easy. That's why
he doesn't have a huge frame, right? He doesn't have a lot of size to put that weight on.
That's why I like Devonta Smith, right? Maybe slipped a little bit in the draft because is he going to be as fast? Is he going to be as agile when he puts that weight on? You know, so it's not as simple as saying put muscle on, you're a better blocker. You still got to be able to do everything else. Again, not saying he can't do it, but this is always a tricky one. When you get a player like that, when you're looking at this kind of situation, it can be a little tricky.